C-Corps presents. What's going on, everybody? This is Tim Hurd, and you are listening to Tall Talk, episode 37. November 11th, 2018. Across Canada, citizens pay tribute to veterans. On this day 100 years ago, the Great War ended. The First World War was fought from 1914 to 1918. Many consider this one of the bloodiest conflicts the world has ever seen. The battle was fought on the Western and Eastern Front. Soldiers on either side dug trenches and faced one another across a harsh, no man's land. The Canadians were there and faced many challenges. Machine guns, snipers, and artillery shells were some of the few things soldiers had to get through to reach enemy lines. A lot has happened since 1918. There have been other conflicts around the world. From 1939 to 1945, Canada and its allies were faced with another European evil. World War II was one of the deadliest conflicts. There were unspeakable tragedies, countless massacres, and the world saw how far some men are willing to go. At times, it was an arms race, and by the end, it was nuclear. In the 50s, the country was split. A war started in Korea, and Canada was at the front lines. Over the years, Canada has been part of many peacekeeping missions, and in recent years, a mission in Afghanistan. But we can't forget about the tragedies that have happened in our own backyard. In 2014, Corporal Nathan Cirillo was killed in Ottawa while on ceremonial duty at the Canadian National War Memorial. We also have to support the many veterans that have and are currently suffering from many mental and physical war wounds. This is a time to thank our veterans. This is a time to remember the fallen. It's a time to wear a poppy. I'd like to thank everyone that has served and is currently serving this country I call home. You've provided me and millions of other Canadians with freedom. But you're probably wondering how this relates to beer. While a brewery in the Ottawa Valley has a beer dedicated to Canada's veterans. But before we continue with the podcast, I'd like to play the last post and have a moment of silence. We'll have more tall talk after this. Thank you, and lest we forget.
Hello, I am Sam Cook, and I am the founder and creator of Secor.io. Secor.io is a brand new podcasting network that's looking for new talent to join our lineup. If you're interested in having a show hosted with Secor.io, then please send us a message on our Contact Us form on the homepage of our website. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your submissions.
Welcome back. I had the opportunity this week to speak to Chris Thompson, who is the president and co-founder of Whitewater Brewing Company. I just cracked open their Legion Lager. It's a Canadian lager, and this is the beer I was speaking about before we went to break, and I'm just going to pour it into a glass, and we'll get into the phone interview I had with Chris. Just give me a second. Not the greatest pour I did, but it does look delicious. I'm just going to wait for all the bubbles and the foam to go down. I have a bit in the can left. I'm just going to wait a second. I hope everyone's week is going great. And yeah, this is quite the podcast I have going on right now. And I'm just going to pour the rest in. That should be good for now. And I would like to make a toast and cheers to all the veterans out there, to all the fallen, lest we forget. Thank you for your service, and cheers. That's quite nice. I like that a lot. That is very nice. So I said this beer is located in the Ottawa Valley. I have been to their one location. They have two locations actually, and I've had this brand on the podcast before, and they actually featured me because I took a picture of one of their beer cans in front of the Ottawa River, and I thanked them for that. And it was on their Instagram page, so you can check that out. So you can follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. For this beer in particular, it has an IBU of 20. It's refreshingly crisp. It is a tall can I have right now. It's a 473 milliliter can, 5% alcohol. The can is beautiful, and it has the Legion logo right on it. And it says, "They say there's no place like home. They're right. From coast to coast to coast, our landscapes define us, and our communities bind us. Here's to home. The Legion Lager is proudly brewed by Friends for Friends in partnership with the Royal Canadian Legion." And I'm not going to get into any more of it because Chris explains a lot, and I was really happy with the interview. He is a great guy, and the brewery itself is doing fantastic things. And if you're in the Ottawa Valley area, check them out and just go out and buy this beer. It is for a good cause. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the interview, and it is a phone interview. I'll let you know about that. And here is Chris explaining the Legion Lager.
So we initially launched Legion Lager in, it was end of April, beginning of May 2017.
The beer has an amazing history, and the brewery has a phenomenal partnership with Canada's military, especially in Petawawa.
We opened as a brewery in 2013, and I don't know if you're too familiar with our area, but we're very, very close to CFB Petawawa, so the barracks up in Petawawa, and they've always been fantastic supporters of the brewery. So not only do the messes carry our product on tap and in the mess halls there. They also come out to our facility. They've run training programs with us. They've camped on our site and run various exercises with us. And they've continued that since day one all the way through to present day. And then it was in sort of 2016, late 2016, we were randomly introduced to a couple of gentlemen from Dominion Command in Ottawa. And they had just loosely mentioned that they were looking into brewing a beer in partnership with a brewery. in support of Legion programs, in support of Canada's veterans. So we sort of got wind that they were potentially interested in this, and obviously through all the support we get from the military and all of the personnel, we thought, the least we can do is sort of throw our hat into the name into the hat and try and contribute and give back to Canada's veterans. So we did that, and I don't know if it was a combination of luck and sort of good beer and a good partnership, but we were lucky enough to win the support of Dominion Command and essentially create Legion Lager in collaboration with them, so that and we agreed on 5% of Legion Lager sales will go to Legion programs in support of Canada's veterans.
Chris says the combination of Whitewater Brewing and the military is a family affair.
We do have a couple of staff who either through some early day military experience of their own, or what's more common with our staff is some of the wives and husbands do work in the military. So we do have a number of staff that have wives and husbands and other family members that are in the military.
Legion Lager is already being sold in some provinces and has the potential of selling nationwide.
We have it available throughout Ontario. We sell it in bars and restaurants as well as LCBOs and grocery stores. It's not in every LCBO or every grocery store, but it is in a large number of LCBOs, and for anybody that's interested in purchasing it in their local store that doesn't carry it, they can request it, and we are able to ship to those stores. So in Ontario, it essentially could be available anywhere, but right now we do have a good presence across Ontario in probably close to a couple of hundred LCBOs. And then we also sell in Manitoba. So we launched in Manitoba earlier this year, and it's going very well so far in their equivalent of the LCBO. So they have the MBLL running the liquor stores there, and we sell in, off the top of my head, approximately 75 liquor stores in Manitoba. And then we also have a presence that we started earlier this year as well in British Columbia, and it's sold in a number of stores in British Columbia as well, and we're continuing to sort of push for increased growth in those two provinces. And our aim is to turn this into a national brand, which would obviously generate great success for the beer, and then obviously larger return for a larger financial return for the Legion programs, which are in support of Canada's veterans.
Beer sales have increased over time, which helps the brewery give back.
When we launched the beer back in April, things typically start very slowly, especially in Ontario, with all of the regulation in the industry and sort of which can prohibit things sort of having an absolute booming start. It was slow to get going, and then we launched in LCBOs this year, and things are really ramping up, and each month we're getting increased sales. So to date, we've donated, I don't have the exact figure, but it's somewhere in the realm of $25,000 back to Legion programs. And like I say, each month our sales are increasing, and the donation will continue to grow. And to be clear, we give 5% of lifetime sales back to Legion programs.
Buying Legion Lager will help Canada's veterans, but wearing a poppy is extremely important.
It's very important to wear a poppy as a sign of respect and remembrance for all of those that have given so much. We don't push the beer in any sort of extravagant or increased way surrounding Remembrance, because it really is a time of remembrance, and we're not trying to take advantage of that. This is a program that we run on a year-round basis and a permanent basis, so it's not something that's built surrounding Remembrance Day. Obviously, I'm sure it's more in the public eye and the public mind in this month of November. But it's not something that we try to push more and more in November to take advantage of that. We truly believe it's a time for remembrance and supporting all of those that have, like I say, given and committed so much.
I'd like to thank Chris and Whitewater Brewing Company for allowing me to do this phone interview. It was great to get chatting with him, and he did mention it a couple of times, but I'm going to mention it again because I know this is really important. 5% of Legion Lager sales go towards supporting veteran programs across Canada, and you can find out more on their website, whitewaterbeer.ca, and you can follow them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And thank you, Chris. That was phenomenal, and I hope we get to chat soon about other beer-related topics. I'm looking out my window right now, and I noticed that the Santa Claus parade is going through Dundas Street in London. How does everyone feel about that? I'm doing this right now. I'm recording this on Saturday, November 10th, the day before Remembrance Day. And this was a controversial subject in London, and it might be a controversial subject in your area. A lot of people believe that they shouldn't have the Santa Claus parade or put up a Christmas tree before Remembrance Day. And I agree with it. I don't think it's right. I think it shouldn't be a time for celebration. I mean, Christmas isn't until December 25th, and it's November 10th. We still have some time. I don't know why it has to be this early, and I just find Santa Claus parades and Christmas keeps on getting pushed forward and forward, earlier and earlier as the time goes on. I don't know, that's just me. I know a lot of people would believe, well, what happens 11 days before Halloween? Halloween. That's what I was talking about. What happens 11 days before Remembrance Day? There's Halloween. And some people say, well, why not have the Santa Claus day before, and then tomorrow, because there is a parade and I plan on going to it. And it just kind of it upsets me that people are celebrating and everyone's happy, and then tomorrow we're supposed to forget that this Santa Claus parade happened and move on. But let's move along with this podcast, and I like I said before, thanks Chris and Whitewater Brewing. That was great, and I can't wait to work with the brewery in the future. So coming up next, I have more Tall Talk, and I have an interview with a member of and a worker or volunteer of one of the local Legion branches. So stick around. Tall Talk will be back after this.
am Sam Cook, and I am the founder and creator of Secor.io. Secor.io is a brand new podcasting network that's looking for new talent to join our lineup. If you're interested in having a show hosted with Secor.io, then please send us a message on our Contact Us form on the homepage of our website. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your submissions.
Welcome back to Tall Talk. This week I had the opportunity to go to the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 317, in London. I spoke to one of their lead volunteers, Casper Koevets, and we discussed the importance of wearing a poppy and education that the Legion does for local schools and all the education that the Legion does across Canada, the memorial services that they have, and just the Legion in general. And I'm just going to get into this interview right away. And here is Casper explaining some of the events and some of the ceremonies that the Legion does for veterans.
We do a lot of education. I travel to high schools in the area here. I'm speaking at Montcalm School this week, and I speak at CCH this week, and they have their own services. And we always make sure we tell them the importance and the meaning of the poppy and what started it and what we do with the funds that we raise through the distribution of poppies. And it's not just a money thing. Poppies is a way of remembering that freedom isn't free, and somebody paid a big price for our freedom. And we promised those guys when they went to war, we will not forget you, lest we forget. And that's what this is all about. It's a way of saying thank you. And it's thanking the current serving members as well. Thank for your service to the country. And it's not all about the money. Mind you, we do raise through donations quite a bit of money, and all that goes back into help veterans that have problems when they come home.
The Legion runs many services throughout London and across Canada.
Well, there's a city event, of course, at the Cenotaph, yep. And then there is another service in the afternoon at Parkwood Institute, Parkwood Hospital for Veterans, and then I go to a couple more senior homes and have services. I usually all day long doing services at different homes and Remembrance Day services, especially for the seniors. And they really enjoy it when we come over and we bring some cadets and the pipes and drums over and we do a service, and it's always well received.
Casper explained to me the history of the poppy and the Royal Canadian Legion.
Poppy started in 1929. And the Legion started in offshoot of a British Empire Service League, because we were, when we were still part of Great Britain as a colony. And the Canadian Legion came out of that, and then by royal assent, and I think it was Queen Elizabeth that gave us the royal assent to put royal in our names, or the Royal Canadian Legion. And that happened somewhere in the 20s or 30s, before the war, before the Second World War. So that all came out of the war that ended all wars in 1418. And we've been at it for a long time as a organization.
Casper told me what many people do with their poppy after the moment of silence.
People can wear a poppy all year round. There's no no laws that tells you. But normally what we do is, or the Legion members do, is they place their poppy either at the cenotaph or at the For myself, we place it at the Dutch monument because being Dutch myself, and there is a monument in Victoria Park where the bells are, that's built by the Dutch community in London to acknowledge and the appreciation for bailing our country out during the war, and that's where we usually, the wife and I, we put our poppies over there.
On Remembrance Day, there will be bells ringing across Canada at sunset.
The alarms in villages and towns around Europe were usually raised by the church bells. If there was an imminent attack, the church bells would ring. People would know, same as the firehouse sirens, but the church bells was their way of warning the public, hey, there's an attack coming. The attack was over, they'd ring the bell 5 times to let you know that it was all clear. At the end of the war, bells all over Europe rang to announce that the war was over. And we're sort of trying to recreate that across country. The Legion is asked all the churches through our chaplaincy and that to ring the bells at sunset, which will be 5:05 on November 11th. Starting in St. John's, Newfoundland, and going right across the country to Victoria, BC.
I'd like to thank Casper and the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 317, for allowing me to ask some questions. I'd also like to thank Chris Thompson and Whitewater Brewing for their fundraising efforts with their beer, the Legion Lager. Finally, I'd like to thank every veteran and current member of the military. Your sacrifices and courage have made Canada even more glorious. Your contribution to freedom will always be remembered, and your honor will never be forgotten, lest we forget. Remember, you can follow this podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Subscribe to Tall Talk on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. A special thanks goes out to Sam Cook and his podcast network, Secor. But until next time, folks, it's been a Timbo Slice.